Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something-yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
I don't know who does this music. I look at it in credit. I love our opening theme music. Dan McGuire, how are you, my friend?
I'm well. Can you hear me good?
I can. You're coming in loud and clear, and I'm not hearing any static. Today has been a weird fucking day for me, Dan. Weird fucking day.
Well, tell me what's up, and I want to know what led to you being on WGN as well.
Oh, okay. Today I wake up. My wife wakes me up and says, "Don't forget, you got to take the dog in at 9 a.m." I was like, "Shit!" I was hoping to sleep till 10 a.m. And then do the Greg Gabriel show because I was up last night doing artwork for it. So I get up and I take the dog into the groomer, and they look at me like, "You weren't supposed to be here today." And they check the schedule. "Yeah, you're supposed to be here tomorrow." So I of course, is swearing my wife. "Oh, fuck, shit, my goddamn." So I come home and I do the Greg Gabriel show, and I send him the wrong link. So he and I are doing our show under the title Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls.
Wow.
And people are gathering in the chat room saying, "Where's Dan? Who is this guy?" Referring to Greg. And then other people are at the old link, the correct link, and they're sitting there waiting. Chris Watts told me he was waiting there for almost an hour waiting for the Gabriel Talks football show. So it's been one of those fucking days. You know, I could go on with more bullshit, but how's your day been, man?
It's been all right. I hope that that this show goes well. Like I told you before we went on air, I'm so disappointed. I wanted to make you a copy of that Chicago Bulls at LA Lakers from December of '84.
Mm-hmm.
I got it, and the second half doesn't have any announcing whatsoever. That kind of ruined it for me. And I got my award today, though. Physically was presented at, I won it on Saturday, not to tug on my own dick, but I was handed that today, and it's pretty good, man. It's heavier than any of the other ones I got. It feels like it's more expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I want to hear all about the Taylor Hawkins and because you've been paying attention to these tributes that have been made for him, right?
Yeah. I specifically watched the Grammy one you sent me, and you know, I was around a female when I was watching it. I was like, God damn, I hope she doesn't see me crying. But it kind of
That's okay. That makes you sexier.
Well, it's strange to me sometimes. Like I'm strange to me sometimes in the sense that, you know, people I don't even know. There've been, you know, Walter Payton died. I cried. When the wrestler Owen Hart died, I cried. I'd grown up watching Owen wrestle. Chris Cornell died, I cried. And now, for some strange reason, the Taylor Hawkins thing kind of hit me that way too. So just seeing all the footage of him alive, and it does. He was only 50, and he had a wife and a couple of kids, and was still drumming his ass off, So, God, if you just watched him play, I mean, you would think the guy had 20 more years to go, just beating the drums, let alone retirement.
Yeah. Well, and this guy was a good-looking guy, man. He must have got a lot of pussy.
Yeah. Like, again, I don't want to sound homosexual here, but I'm comfortable in my sexuality. Back in the day when he first joined the band, music videos were still a thing, Well, I mean, I guess now they are, but MTV was still MTV is my point. And there were several videos where he cross-dressed, where he was playing a female in the music video. And my point is, he kind of pulled it off. If he wanted to be that 1980s, like, what was the word that they used, like during the Prince era?
Misogynist? No, not misogynist. That's the opposite.
No, definitely not that. But androgynous.
Androgynous. There you go.
Yeah, he could have pulled that off, man, because he was thin, and if he just shaved his beard and put on the makeup, man, he could pull off being a lady. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Incredible talent. By the way, for those who don't know, Johnny Santucci is not here with us. He spoke about it last week that he was going on a cruise with his family, and he sent us this video.
Hey, this is Tooch for the Dan and Aldo Show. I am on the Sunset Cruise with Alita. Can you say Booze Cruise?
Booze Cruise.
Booze Cruise. Everyone, I'll be back next week enjoying my vacation with the family. Talk to you later. Have a great show.
Good for you, Tooch.
Where's he at? Do you know?
Jesus, he told me, and now I'm forgetting. Someplace. Siesta Key area down in Florida.
I've got I know it's earlier in the show, but I have a television recommendation for you based off Taylor Hawkins. They made this show last year called Music Box on HBO, which had these documentaries. And the lead one was Woodstock 99, where they were doing a documentary about certain musicians and what have you. And they did one on Alanis Morissette, and Taylor, of course, started as Alanis's drummer. So if you watch that, like, Taylor's on there saying things like, this tour was debauchery, man. I've never had so much pussy in my entire life. Like, he was talking about how every guy in the band had groupies coming up to them because they liked Alanis before the show and was lining up like, well, we want to fuck you and you and you. And it was just, rock and roll, like, where all the women wanted to fuck them. And there's a lot of stories, and the Alanis will be on there like, that's kind of the opposite of what my music was saying. So it's hard for me to approve of that, but she said, like, when Taylor left, she cried and begged him not to leave to go to Foo Fighters. But obviously that was more of his kind of music, it's a fun documentary. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, did you see any of the Grammys at all other than the Taylor Hawkins thing?
No, apparently no one else did either.
Oh, really?
It was the lowest rated ever, I think.
I think America and probably most of the world is just over all of these award shows. It's like, come on, you guys, sucking each other's dick, and it's just nuts. But I did, I don't know why, but I did for some reason watch a portion of it. And Avril Lavigne, you remember her?
Yeah, of course. She was with that guy from Nickelback, and needless to say, he's not a good-looking fellow, that Chad Kroeger.
Cliff Victoria says it's the lowest rated Grammys until next year's show. So she's presenting an award, and I remember when she first came out, and she was on the cover of Entertainment Weekly. She had a couple of hit songs that I would listen to with my kids and stuff, and she was a sexy little 18-year-old. And now she looks like a MILF. She's clearly looks like she's had kids, and she's still hot as hell. But there's a obvious difference in the type of sexual appeal that she offers nowadays. And I had, there was that case also with a lot of the other Grammy performers, you know, that their age now has changed their looks. They all look fabulous. I mean, these people have so much money to maintain their good looks or create good looks. Bill Maher on his show this past week talked about how he has to pay to have his hair dyed, and he's obviously had some hair plugs put in and stuff. Have you noticed that about Bill, his transformation into senior citizenship? He's done some upkeep on himself.
Yeah, the hair, especially because every year he talks about it too. Every year he goes and does a show before COVID, and then now he's back to it on New Year's in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And like he has shown in a couple of videos, like cell phone, you know how he likes to brag about getting stoned, which is a little pretentious, it seems to me at times. But it'll show a picture or a video with he and, you know, some other celebrity, Woody Harrelson, for example, getting high or whatever. And it would be startling to me because I'd look and be like, damn, Bill looks bald there.
Yes.
So it would just be him without his, like, you know, suit on and just chilling. And it looked like, yeah, he was just really bald in the regular life.
Yeah. He, have you seen portions of his new podcast, which is also videotaped? I guess you would call it a webcast.
I haven't. Like I used to be such a big fan of his, and not that I'm not anymore. It has dropped off a little bit.
Yeah,
but I've been busy. I haven't even been able to watch the last 2 episodes of Real Time, and I was certainly a fan of that every week.
Yeah,
but I've missed the last 2 weeks. I was at a Slipknot concert last Friday though.
Mm-hmm. I should have pulled a clip of the portion of the show that I saw. He's interviewing Quentin Tarantino, and apparently this happens in his garage, which doesn't look like a garage. It's actually another studio that he has on his property. He's a very rich man, and so he's got this studio built on his property. He calls it the garage or the lounge or something like that. In any case, he's interviewing Tarantino, and I put down in the comments section, I am getting a contact high just from watching these guys. They were both toasted, man. Tarantino and Bill Maher are so fucked up in this video, and they keep interrupting each other, and the conversations go left and right and so forth. I don't know if I enjoyed it or not. I mean, I kind of enjoyed seeing this behind the scenes look of 2 mega stars, and Tarantino, I think, is a bigger star than Bill Maher, but they're both big stars, just totally ripped on marijuana, and they're smoking throughout the show too. So just for that fact, it's worth taste testing.
Tarantino's one of those guys. Every time I see him, like for some reason, I am kind of just sucked into whatever he's talking about.
Yep, me too.
Because I like his movies so much that he could be talking about what flavor food his cat was eating, and I would listen.
I would prefer he talks about movies, but yeah, Tarantino's in that category along with Martin Scorsese, especially when they're talking movies. It's like a master class. You just have to sit and listen. If you get an opportunity to ask, I would love to interview any one of those guys, or to have them both on this show would be outstanding. My goodness, that would be such a thrill for me, because I love their take on movies and the fact that they're a walking encyclopedia. Cliff Victoria.
What was that guy's name on PBS that used to interview all the celebrities and stuff? I always thought he had great interviews, and then he got sunk with the Me Too thing.
Charlie Rose.
Yeah, man. Like, if you ever seen like Tarantino or any of the filmmakers on there, I thought he was great.
Yeah. By the way, I was actually interviewed by Charlie Rose when I was about 19 years old.
That's fucking outstanding.
Yeah, Charlie Rose had a local show here in Chicago called AM Chicago, and there was a feature in the Chicago Tribune about gangbangers in Chicago. And so I get this call out of the blue. I don't even remember who called me and said, hey, they want to interview on Charlie Rose. They're going to talk to gangbangers, and they want to talk to you, a former gangbanger who is now doing well. I had a broadcasting job or whatever it was. So I went on the show, and I was nervous as fuck, primarily because there was 3 angry guys looking at me, wanted to kick my ass, and they probably thought I was white. Like everybody I ever grew up with thought I was white, because I'm the lightest skinned Puerto Rican on planet Earth. And so Charlie asked me a bunch of questions about, what would you advise these guys, which was like fucking frightening. What am I going to tell these guys? Hey, you guys are fucking up. Get your shit together.
You're going to sound like Bill Cosby. Pull your pants up.
Exactly.
God damn it.
And I had done, part of the reason I was asked is because in high school I had done an anti-gang movie. They got a lot of press. It was shown nationally on PBS, and so that's probably where they got my name. And also my teacher was associated with a lot of the broadcast types in Chicago. So he asked to see my movie. So I ran back home, got my 16 millimeter print of the movie, dropped it off to his secretary. He didn't come down to get it. His secretary did. And he says, "Oh, thank you very much. He's going to really enjoy watching this." And about an hour later, it's a 45-minute movie. An hour later, I get a call back saying, "Okay, you can come and pick it up." He didn't fucking watch my movie. He was probably fucking that chick that came down to get that print of the movie.
Well, why make you come and bring it then? You know?
I don't know. But anyway, that was my Charlie Rose story. No Bad says, Puerto Rican. Damn, that's news. Yeah, I am Puerto Rican. The funny thing is that my mom told me that the postman was Polish, so maybe my biological father really isn't my biological father.
Wow.
Maybe I'm a Polish Rican. All right, let's talk a little Chicago Bears football. Thank you, everyone who is with us live. We're about 16 minutes into the show. You listen to us talk some shit, and we're going to talk some more shit on the other end of this. But I wanted to share with Dan, because I don't think he's heard it, and a lot of our followers, an interview done over at 670 The Score with the Park and Siegel show. They had on Ron Veal, who is the quarterback coach for Justin Fields. Have you heard this interview, Dan?
I have not.
Okay, you're going to love this. So Mr. Veal has been his quarterback coach, Justin Fields' quarterback coach, since he was like 6 years old, something unbelievable. And so he works with him almost every year. And so
is this where he's talking about Fields was angry in Cleveland?
You got it.
I read this.
Yeah.
I read about it. But yeah, please go ahead.
Now you'll get to hear it from his very mouth. He talks about that and about some of the things that they worked on. And then I've got some questions on the other end, like, really, is this the best thing for Justin Fields that he's working with an independent quarterback coach and it's not someone who has contact with the team? So that's discussed to a bit on that, and we'll discuss more about it on the other end. Here it comes. This is Mr. Veal being interviewed on the Parkins and Siegel show on 670. I've cut out it was about a 10, 12-minute interview. I've cut about half of it out. Here it comes.
Talk to Ron Veal, Justin Fields' quarterback coach.
How the workouts go in this offseason?
They went well. You know, he's back in Chicago now, but he was home for like 2 months. So we did maybe 15, 16 sessions together, individual sessions, just working on a few things because, you know, they got a new offensive coordinator and a new coach. So we're just trying to implement some of the things that they will be going over here in the next couple of weeks.
What specifics about that can you share with us?
Well, you know, just drops and making sure his time is good. We're trying to speed up his drops a little bit more, trying to speed up his delivery a little bit more so he can throw the ball on time instead of waiting on the get out of break, a little bit more anticipation. So those are the things we focus on.
Is it new stuff based on new coordinator that he's got to work on, or do you also then, Ron, have an opportunity to work on stuff that you watched last year, that he experienced last year, and try to improve that stuff too?
Well, both of those really worked on, like, his ball security and his drop and his ball carriage and his drops, trying to get him a little bit more secure, along with some of the new stuff that they will be doing under the new coordinator.
How do you balance his natural inclination to look for the home run shot, you know, the touchdown to check down mentality, and his improvisational skills to extend the play with, hey, man, sometimes it's okay to take a sack? How do you balance that?
Well, we talked a lot about that as well. We talked about more just taking the check downs when they're there. He would always say, sometimes I'm doing way too much, and he understands that from watching film. It's like there are situations where I could have taken the check down, and if the sack takes place, it takes place. But as long as we don't turn the ball over and give them extra downs to participate in the game, we're okay with that, in my opinion. Now, his coaching staff might say something different for us, like sacks are not okay. Try to get the ball out or try to get rid of the ball and avoid the sack. But I think the check downs, if he go through his progressions the right way, get to the check down, a lot of that stuff will take care of itself for the sacks and everything else.
At the beginning, you said, but like some of the stuff that the coaches wanted him to work on, like the speeding up his drop, speeding up his delivery, and then there you said, maybe they would say something different. So are you in touch with Luke Getsy, or are you doing what Justin says they want him to do? How's the communication between you, the private quarterback coach, and the team's coaching staff?
Well, it's through Justin. And
Okay.
so when our sessions take place, he would bring the information that he wanted to work on. And we would work on that information because he would have Donnell Mooney down and he had the tight end down, Cole. So those things were worked on in sessions, what they wanted him to work on.
Someone had used the phrase to me, the sequence of exposure. Like it matters what you teach and like what order. And the way that they were talking about it was like, boy, if you feel unprotected on the edges, like there's not a lot of max protect or chip help, if you feel like you might get clobbered, then it's harder to learn other things. Would you agree with that as a thought process, that a young quarterback needs to feel safe and protected in the pocket before he can truly learn some of the other nuances of the offense?
Yes, I do agree with that. To a certain extent, sometimes quarterback has to make sure the protection is right for him to protect himself. And I think it works hand in hand. The more safe or secure he feels, he can start getting the ball out a little bit quicker and eliminate some of that stuff happening to him, for as like the hits or the sacks.
Because we were going crazy here last year, Ron. Like that Cleveland game plan was just insane to see those defensive ends allowed that freedom. Were you going crazy like we were watching some of that?
Yeah, it was bad. I was supposed to be at that game because that's his first start, but the way the airlines worked at that time, I didn't make it. I'm kind of glad I did because he took a beating that day. But yeah, it was kind of crazy and weird at the same time. Why would you leave those two guys with no help?
Did you ever get an explanation?
No, I didn't. I know he was a little pissed about it, but I didn't get an explanation. And I really didn't ask because I know he was in a situation where he was really pissed off about it.
That game specifically, or the year overall? Because it felt like there were just asking him to do a lot with very little help.
Well, I think that game, because that was his first official start, but, he played well at times and he struggled at times, which is what happened with rookie quarterbacks. But I think he had a lot of information to learn from and get better from, during the off season. And I think that's going to help him this season be a little bit more productive and a little bit more careful and cautious with the ball.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hopefully the way it's supposed to work, right? That Justin learned a bunch and then can now go to Luke Getsy, go to Matt Eberflus and go to you, obviously, in your sessions. All right, I need this. Did he express anything that he needs to really feel secure and be the best quarterback that he can be?
Yeah, he just wanted, like I said earlier, he just want to get better at the little things, like for his drops, his sets, his movements, not being off balance and not doing too much when he make a move in the pocket, delivering the ball on time and with anticipation. He said, like last week, he said, a lot of times I was just holding on the wall to make sure they was coming out the break. That's just a young quarterback not really trusting it as much as he should,
We've been talking a little bit about this on the show. So this upcoming year, it will be Justin's third offense in 3 years. There will be a new, he loses Allen Robinson. There's uncertainty with the wide receiver core, the offensive line. Like, it's his second year in the league. You're supposed to make a big jump from year one to year two. What is reasonable to expect from Justin this year, given the circumstances of the situation around him?
Well, I think all of that is out of his control, first of all. And I just think he has to prepare and get himself ready to play each game, Sunday by Sunday. And let those guys know they're professionals and that they be ready to play as well. And then go out and perform. And I hope that's what the game plan would be for us. Like, really understand what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it, week by week, prepare myself week by week, and be ready to play on Sunday.
So,
he can't control that part of the game. You just have to control what he can control.
You've been around football so long, though, Ron. Like, so you said he was pissed about the game plan for Cleveland. Like, in your mind, what is the best situation to make Justin Fields be successful?
I think just let him play and be himself, and live with some of the mistakes that he will make, and then, he's gonna make plays in the game, and he's gonna not make plays. But I think you just continue to build on the success that he has, and just know he's a young quarterback.
So, immediate thoughts, Dan Aguirre. I want to share my thoughts later, and then also share some of the thoughts in the comments that I collected during Mr. Veal's interview there. Your thoughts?
I think watching the game, we were also pissed off.
We sure fucking were.
We had such great seats, and again, I thank you for that once more.
You bet.
For that game. Yeah, I like the honesty, and I like that. Maybe he's not supposed to say that, and maybe Fields will tell him, like, bro, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's not like Nagy's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a new staff, so they can't be too – I would hope that the Chicago Bears themselves, or the institution, the organization, couldn't be mad at Justin for this his quarterback. What was his official title? The guy who works him out in the offseason since he was young, his QB coach, for lack of a better.
That's it.
Right. Well, that guy saying that he was pissed, good, because that's a guy, to me, I think when I hear that, I'm like, this is a guy that knows he's better and he's capable of doing more, and is pissed off that he had a bad season. He knows it. And I like that. I like that he cares. I mean, I thought that he cared anyway, but just to hear that confirmed is what I was like, good. I like that. And it just confirms that everybody knew how incompetent that scheme was. When you make the Browns look like the 85 Bears that day.
That's right. And that was their best game of the season, and that defense had some pretty good games. But that was a complete annihilation and a complete embarrassment. I think we said it that week on the show. It was an embarrassment to the city of Chicago, to Bears fans, to the organization, to the legacy that is the Chicago Bears. It was just another Will Smith smack to the face of Chris Rock. I mean, it was that bad, and it's awful that the first time you and I get to meet face to face, and we go see a game at a really brilliant looking stadium, and it ends up being such. And we were in that game. We could have turned things around. We were into the middle of the third or late in the third. It was like
the same thing happened the night before at that White Sox game against the Indians.
That's right.
It was just they were lethargic and had no energy. And at any point, if you get a big hit here or there, then they're in the game. But they never got a hit here or there. It feels like they had like 3 hits all night.
Yep, indeed. Here are some of the thoughts in the chat room. Leo Factor says, you would think that after the Browns game and bad season on offense, the Bears would try to communicate with Fields' quarterback coach to talk about what went wrong. And I agree with that, Leo. The idea that this guy has a quarterback coach, and Hair Bear also points out that Fields has a second personal quarterback coach. That the idea that the team is not communicating with them, at least on a general level, hey, these are the things we would love for you to work on. These are, and of course, Justin Fields is communicating that to them, but wouldn't they also just want to ask some questions of the quarterback coach to make sure that he is teaching Justin Fields the right things? I can be skeptical sometimes. I was taught to be as a journalist. What happened since he was 6 years old? What happened with some of these basic things about ball protection? What about that loopy delivery? I mean, he didn't even mention that during the interview. Is that something that he has not addressed? Because he certainly had not addressed it prior to him coming to the NFL. We saw it at Ohio State, and I'm sure it was something he probably developed in high school. So why wasn't that addressed? And why can we be sure it is being addressed this off season by somebody? So I'm a little bit
as
concerned.
Nagy would say, we need to find out the why.
Always. And I love what Bruce Ollie Walter Jordan says here is, I think he fucked up a lot of players. He really fucking did.
He absolutely did.
Clint says, can't blame Fields for the anger. Damn right you can't, man. I mean, they brought up during the course of the interview, they brought up, what was the phrase, the sequence of order, was it, that I think Spiegel said, which is an interesting concept, is you got to learn things in a certain order. And that's why when you draft a young quarterback, there should already be an all-pro line in place to do it after his rookie season, to start the development of an all-pro offensive line. It's just one of the dumbest things that I've seen the Chicago Bears do year after fucking year after fucking year. It irritates me that they are always out of sequence. They're never in sync. They're not building the team the right way. You bring in the GM and coach and let them select the quarterback. And then you build the offensive line immediately and replenish that offensive line. Always have guys in the pipeline so that if your starting left tackle goes down, you don't have to call somebody who's fucking fishing. He's 40 years old, and he's showing up a week before the start of the season. It's
and the most
awful.
indicting part of that process was if you look at the overall, like, the tape doesn't lie, and that's not a shot at anybody. I'm not being facetious, but if you watch the games, it looked like Jason Peters was our best lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Peters. I mean, if the guy that was just fishing, who is already happy with being in retirement and fishing, comes in and he's probably outperformed all your young bucks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had some of his moments where you're like, oh, he's not the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he still played overall. I think he was the best lineman of the season, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you. No Bad said, I'm sure Getsy gave him a list of things to focus on. Well, he didn't give Avril that list. He gave that list to Justin Fields. But the thing is that the Bears' new head coach and coordinators, spent a lot of time this offseason basically learning what it is they want to teach the players. It's like coaching the coaches. And so now you're allowing your star player to be coached by someone outside of that that structure that has been built at Hallis Hall. And so that's why I have a little discomfort with that. I know, like, when I worked in corporate communications and we had to, because of workloads and so forth, we had to hire somebody from the outside to do a production for us. We spent time training these guys and making sure that they not only dressed the right way, but also did all the technical specs of videotaping the way we wanted them, and the archiving of the material the way we wanted them. Because if you didn't have that, then it just starts to become chaotic. Hair Bear says for what it's worth, on some of the video that he has seen, the delivery does look a bit faster and a little bit more efficient, less loopiness, I guess. I saw one video, Hair Bear, that attests to that. So I hope that it is being addressed, and that as soon as we start seeing him throw in camp, that's a thing of the past, because I think that's a really, really big issue with some of the lack of success that he has. I mean, Fields has to be accountable for some of the things that went wrong, right?
That's true, but to beat the same drum that I was pounding last week, I want to convey strongly once more that, to me, the Bears have to tell him it's your gig.
Right.
Not some Mike Glennon shit that this is your year and then week 4 you play your way out. But that he was a joke in comparison with Justin Fields with his attributes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Fields has to just focus on everything and play well and not worry about getting a hook or being traded or being benched. Just tell him, hey, man, we just gave up a first-round pick to move up to get you last season. You're the guy. So go play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want any pressure put on him, making him think, if I don't do this, I don't do that, then what? I might be traded already. Like, don't even plant that seed, man.
Mm-hmm.
If that comes to that, like the Cade McNown situation, which we talked about last week, in his second year, and he played so terribly that it was inevitable that he's probably going to be gone, then so be it. But don't start talking that shit right now. We haven't even started training camp.
I hear you. I love this from Nomad because you said this very same thing to me. I think maybe during the game. Nomad writes, the Cleveland game almost felt like a sabotage on Justin just to prove Nagy right about starting Dalton. And I told you so. Isn't that something that you told me while we were in Cleveland that it felt that way?
I think so. I think I was pretty down watching.
You were pissed off. Yes.
I think we both were. I remember when we were in Chicago the following week, I was like, okay, Aldo, you can't be to my left this week because everything went so badly last week. Please be on my right. Like, we've got to change something up. Like, even though superstition is nonsense, I still get sucked into that shit during the season.
Yeah. I arrived. You guys were first in your seats. And then I arrived there. I noticed that the middle seat was open for me. So to my right was your date, and to my left was you. And I'm like, oh, this is cozy.
Just don't be to my left because like that disaster last week.
That's right.
Who would have thought at that time that because Cleveland, their fans were talking shit to us.
Mm-hmm.
They were coming off their first playoff win. Who would have thought that when we were watching that, man, Baker Mayfield's done here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just shows you how quickly things move in the National Football League. And I don't want Fields to be another one of those because I honestly believe if we give up on him, he's going to go somewhere and ball. Mm. I believe it. I don't know, maybe Mitch. I hope Mitch will be all right in Pittsburgh. I see he's even got Dwayne Haskins and the one that had his helmet ripped off. What was Mason Rudolph?
Right.
He brought them down, and their back, Najee Harris, who I like a lot. And they're all working out at Mitch's house. So that's cool. I wish him well. But I honestly think that Fields has more talent than Trubisky. So if we give up on him quickly, he'll go somewhere else and be a star. I honestly believe that.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I just hope that what transpired last year, the fiasco, I think this is going to go down in history as time sinks in, that allowing Matt Nagy to coach this young quarterback was the worst thing the Chicago Bears organization has done since, the premature announcement of Dave McGinnis being the coach, or name any other fiasco. You're much better at Bears history than I am.
God, I was thinking what would be on par with that for.
Yeah.
If you were an anti-Cutler guy, you would say since the Cutler trade.
Yes.
Or a lot of people would say since firing Lovie Smith.
Yeah, a lot of people, including my brother. My brother was for the firing of Lovie Smith, and I was like, "No, what are we gonna get? You can't say that until you know what we're gonna get." And look at what we got, and it was a fiasco. A few more comments from the chat. I love this one from Cliff Victoria because I know you're gonna relate to this. He writes, "It's like the Cleveland game. It's like the Miami game in '85. I skip it often when I'm watching the season on DVD." Isn't that true? You're watching like a retrospective of a team's season, and you just skip over the games where they looked awful.
A point that's often forgotten on that Monday night game is that McMahon didn't play until like the fourth quarter, and Steve Fuller will want you to know that the reason he looked so terrible in the Super Bowl shuffles because he broke his ankle at the Orange Bowl.
Oh my!
And that was 2 days later. So he's trying to dance, and he's like, "It's not just because I'm white, motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
I could barely stand." So, but yeah, Jim didn't come in until and I cannot get Jim McMahon to follow me back, man. What the fuck?
Yeah,
I keep retweeting everything they're saying, and we'll follow you. They will not follow Jim McMahon's account. Will not follow me.
Well, and I've got his phone number. And I'm going to. I promise you, Dan. I've been putting this off. I promise you, I'm going to call him this week to see if we can get him on the show.
Oh, that'd be great.
Mike North is coming on Thursday to talk baseball, and so I'm going to get a pointer from him or two just to see if I can, not fuck this up. I'm frankly a little nervous about calling Jim McMahon and saying, "Hey, Jim, I want you to be on our show." Blah 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 blah.
That's why we should ask Mike to. Play point guard.
Exactly. So I desperately want him to be on. But Jamal asks a very good question here. He says, "Would you have fired Matt Nagy after a playoff appearance against the Saints?"
Yes.
Tell
I
us
thought
why.
he was going to be fired. And at the time, all of us here, I can't attribute to who said what first, but we all agreed his demeanor after the postseason game and that presser, it's like he knew he was coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he was laughing and stuff and was having a good time and having fun or whatever, despite getting your ass just kicked. They had that one play, the one that was dropped in the end zone, if that touchdown happens, maybe the whole vibe of the game is different. But you barely made the playoffs. You slopped your way into the playoffs. And then you don't show up. And your guys play undisciplined, like Anthony Miller throwing a punch. And just listless and lifeless.
Mm-hmm.
That he should have been gone after that game. Even if Ryan Pace remained, Matt Nagy should have been gone. And for him to be like, oh, well, we made the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years, and then maybe it's Trubisky's fault. He kind of scapegoated Mitch there. I think even if Mitch goes, Nagy had to go after the Saints game.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100% with everything that you said. There are certain times in life, sports, professional careers, you name it, where somebody does something good and they immediately get attached with a label like a winner, because he took us to the playoffs for the first time in so many years. A label as competent because he did a certain project in a really good way. But the more you spend time alongside that person, the real person starts to become exposed. And I think that in that season, despite the fact that they backed into the playoffs with an 8-8 record, it was pretty obvious that he was not a competent head coach.
I think it was obvious in 2019. I really did.
Yeah, but I would not have fired him after the 2019 season. But you're right. What I would have done if I was the owner is said, here are the things you need to work on. This is what I see. Explain to me why I'm seeing that, because if you don't have a good reason, then you need to change it. Just go through a list of things that coach had to improve. And maybe there was a way to salvage Matt Nagy. Clearly, one of the things that I would have said in that meeting, if I was his boss, I would have said, you need to stop calling the fucking plays and become the CEO of this team on the field. Because it looks to me like you're buried in that big menu and you're not paying attention to the rest of the team. We saw that here with Mark Trestman. He lost the defense because he was so focused on improving his quarterback play and scoring points, and it ended up killing him. There's just ways to have tried to get Matt Nagy corrected. It probably wouldn't have worked. But after that season against the Saints, for the reasons that you mentioned, the lack of discipline on the team, the lack of offense scoring points, it was awful. It was all signs pointed.
His demeanor after the game.
Yeah, that was another thing.
Go back and watch any playoff game, whether it's Lovey or or Mike Ditka, or even, Dick Duran. When you lose a game, like, who's sitting around fucking laughing like that?
Mm-hmm.
And just acting like he just got laid at prom. I mean, to me, if that's after the game, Ditka's either pissed off and yelling, or he's like stoic and he's saying, guys, we have to get better. They're a better team than we are. And I don't like it, but that's where we are. Like, it would be matter of fact, or he would be the Ditka where he's yelling and ranting. It could be either one, but I would take either one of those dispositions because A, they're authentic, and B, they care. Whereas Nagy just seemed like it was always somebody else's fault. And so he was never thinking he had to change or improve anything himself.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't figure out my system. My system works. And I think he was probably told he's coming back, and he wasn't hiding his happiness.
I love what Hair Bear writes here. It sounds like the opening line of an article. People make mistakes and people learn, and everybody deserves a chance to make what they did wrong right. But Nagy just kept digging a hole because he couldn't figure out one single why. Well said, Hair Bear. And PJ goes on to say, I have no faith in Nagy's decisions. I now question every personnel decision he has made. Howard, Trubisky, White, Miller, Ridley, Long, Garasso, and Leno. His system sucks, and he can't develop players. You're absolutely right about that, PJ. Now, there's a couple of guys on that list that I think there's no hope for, but there are some guys here that you'll wonder if there was a better coach and a better coach.
Did they say Grisou?
Yeah, Hronis Grasu.
Yeah, well, he was drafted during the John Fox days, though.
That is true. His rookie season was John
15.
Fox's last season, was it? Or
No, Fox managed to go 3-13 the following year.
Yeah.
So he was 2 years under John Fox.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I can add to his list there, PJ's list, because there was certainly an issue with the lack of development of players. And, I'm not going to be at all surprised if Mitchell Trubisky comes out and has a better than average season, because I know Mike Tomlin is smart enough to build an offense to his strengths, which is something that Matt Nagy just doesn't know or want to do because of his ego.
His ego is just so monumentally where he honestly thinks he's the smartest guy in the room.
Yep. I mean,
that's why he doesn't have to have his formations. Like this time we ran the ball out of, this particular formation, but the next time we're going to pass, and there's never anything that sets up anything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like he's playing a video game.
Yeah. Yep. Stephen Nagishi writes, that Browns game was definitely the turning point for in 2021. Nagy was exposed as a fraud nationally, and he sabotaged Fields. So what do you
I
think
disagree with that, but I didn't mean to step on you. Go ahead.
No, please, because I was just going to ask you, do you agree about whether Nagy purposely sabotaged Fields there? But please make your point.
No, I can't disagree with that part. Okay. I don't know if it wouldn't surprise me. When I was down at the time, I felt that for sure. Mm-hmm. But to me, the turning point of the season was definitely Aaron Rodgers, I own you. Like, I think I know that I said on air, not to again, beat my dick here, but I was like, this is like one of those moments either that brings the team together or they're going to go on a big losing streak.
Yep, you said that.
And that's what they did. Like, It was, to me, that was the turning point because they were in that game too.
Mm-hmm.
And just couldn't get the hell they led.
Mm-hmm.
And like so many other games, they couldn't hold on to the lead. And I think they had, again, I was listening to that game in a car. I was going to watch it. I was going to Slipknot that day too, but I was going to watch it that night and not know the score, and just watch it as if it were live. But in the car that day, I was stuck in some kind of road work or something for like an hour and we weren't moving. And I was like, I can't fucking take it. Mm-hmm. And I turned on the game and was listening. And I think the Bears had scored, right? Weren't the Bears in the lead before that possession?
They were.
Where Rodgers went down and ran into the end zone in that corner and then said that he owned us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I think to me, that's the turning point, not being able to get the W there and for him to shit all over us and us like poor, pitiful Giants unable to do anything about it.
Right. And, it has been reported that Nagy was much more emotional in front of the players but we as fans needed to see some of that emotion too. We needed to see him pissed off. We needed to see him, issue a verbal threat to Aaron Rodgers. He comes back to Soldier Field and he does that again. He better watch his back, something like that, because you need to get the fans on your side. And he never did that. He was much more focused on getting his thoughts out. That's why he would be asked a question and it would be a 4-minute response. It's like, dude, where are your fucking communication skills? You're just making everything worse for yourself.
But he was trying to go the long way to preclude himself from actually answering the question, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was trying to bury you in insignificant details.
That's right.
Could you imagine, though, if like Randy Wright or Lynn Dickey had tried that shit with Ditka? It just would, even if Ditka lost his first couple of games to Green Bay and then owned them, to steal the word from Rodgers. But even if they were flip-flopped, could you imagine someone saying that with Mike Ditka as the Bears coach and and then listen to his presser after the game?
Yeah.
What would have happened? We all know he would have fucking exploded. And he was at that point of his life in his 40s, or he probably would have threatened the guy to beat him up.
Yeah, Mike Ditka would have, for all of the faults that I saw in Mike Ditka, there was something that he was brilliant at, and that was bringing a team together to fight together, put that chip on your shoulder. Now, after the Super Bowl, he lost that ability with that strike-shortened season when he alienated the stars of the team, the real team, by being so supportive of the Spare Bears. Yeah, that was really bad. I want to get to some more thoughts from people on that Ron Veal sound. This is Hair Bear saying, well, yeah, how's the young quarterback supposed to play when his own head coach is in his head and in a bad way? Yeah, that is true, Hair Bear. Fields not complained, but he made it clear that he liked it when the offensive coordinator would call the plays because Nagy was too excitable. And he's watching over everything and he would be yelling the plays in and so forth. And that's not Fields' style. Fields is acid jazz. He improvises. He uses old ways of things. He's got a much more mellow yet tough fight in him. And Nagy is a disruptor of that. It's just not a good fit. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping Luke Getsy and Fields are going to form this cohesion, like jazz artists where, he's going to go here, even though this is all improvised and so forth. And the coach, I know what he's going to call here because he's seen the same thing I'm seeing and so forth. That never happened with Nagy and Fields and never happened with Nagy and Trubisky. And so I'm hoping we'll see some of that with this new coaching staff. Somebody in the chat room, I forgot to star it, said one of the things, I think it was Laz says one of the things I'm most excited about this upcoming season is to see how this new coaching staff works. I'm with you, Laz, because that is the number one key thing. We know we're not going to have a roster that's ready to win, but we could have a roster that is ready to learn and go out there and execute to the best of their abilities. So
if I could add real quick,
please do.
To if I were listening to this right now and I was in the chat room, this is what I would throw in there.
Okay.
What you were saying a moment ago, which again, I agree with, and I can't present this to you as a fact because I don't know. I'm not in the mind of Justin Fields, but I'll present it as my opinion and see what you think. I strongly believe if you're Justin Fields, you had so much national fanfare when the Bears drafted you. Everyone was happy. They saw what you did at Ohio State. So you're the guy. You're the prom king, to keep going back to that analogy of the prom.
Mm-hmm.
You're the fucking big guy. You got the big dick on campus. This fucking guy is the one I got to listen to. You can't tell me at some point during that season that Fields, to use another cliche about the emperor not wearing clothes, or maybe he saw the Wizard of Oz, he saw behind the curtain, and saw this fucking guy doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So it's got to be hard when you're trying to figure things out anyway.
Right.
And there's no protection, and you're a rookie, and you're going to have natural nerves, and your coach is incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that Justin Fields didn't think that, in my opinion.
Yep. You think that if we had Ron Veal over for a couple of drinks and got him to open up, he would reveal some of the things that Justin Fields was thinking about this incompetent head coach. There's no doubt in my mind that he knows a lot more than he shared in that interview, as you said earlier in the show, Dan, because, he's being professional and trying to, he didn't want to speak out of turn, and hopefully the Bears management doesn't believe that he already did with what he did share. But I'm sure Justin was terribly, terribly upset. And Justin seems to me like the type of guy who is going to say all the right things as a leader, but inside he's thinking for himself. He is not going to just follow along. And one of the things that I wrote down in my notes is I hope that Justin is much more vocal this year with his coaching staff and really, really makes it known. Listen, this is what I want to run. This is what's going to work. And, we heard back in Mitchell Trubisky's last year here, Bill Lazor, the offensive coordinator, saying that Trubisky had not earned that right to say those things. And when they finally did later in the season, Mitch probably played some of his better football ever here in Chicago.
To me, Mitch earned that when he beat Aaron Rodgers at the game you attended, and won the division at Soldier Field when the Bears had not beaten Green Bay in Chicago since 2010. 8 years later, Mitch threw a touchdown to Trey Burton. He was throwing the ball. They won the game, and of course, Eddie Jackson's never been the same after that an injury off the interception. But the point being, I think Mitch earned a lot of respect that day with that win, beating Aaron Rodgers. To me, if I'm Matt Nagy going into 19, instead of trying to throw, 102 or whatever he was saying on him, I would have listened a lot to Mitch in that regard. He won you a division title, bro.
Exactly.
I mean, I know you're going to credit most of that to the defense, but still, he was driving the car.
Plus, it's the right thing to do. You want to play to your players' strengths. You want to make them feel as comfortable as possible. So if he's saying, I really would like to do some more rollouts, don't fucking respond by that. Well, you haven't earned the right to roll out on my offense. Fuck that. Stephen Me says, with this hot garbage Bears team of nobodies, we will be executed by the rest of the NFL team's abilities. Stephen, so respond to this question. I'll ask Dan the same question. Yeah, I suppose they're going to win just a handful of games this season. Now, I hate to make predictions before the roster is fully set, but yeah, all indications are that they are planning for a big injection of talent in the 2023 season. They've got to clean out all the garbage and fix all the salary cap issues and blah, blah, blah. But is there anything, Steven, that the Bears can do, despite perhaps they're having this losing record? Is there anything they can do that will give you hope for the future? And I'll ask you, Dan, that question.
I'll go back to Ditka again. And I wasn't even watching the games yet. But because I didn't start around until 87 to where I knew everything that was going on and such. But if you go back and look at it now, and you can speak on this better than me, because, again, I was 2. But if you look at the 82 season, the Bears didn't make the playoffs. There's only 9 games, and they had extended playoff format that year. So a couple more wins, and the Bears would have made it, but they didn't. And they had a shitty record that year. But it's to me, it's obvious you had the right guy. You had the right guy. I know you said that he almost got fired. He broke his hand against the Colts in 83 at the locker. And he had to have people save his ass and, to keep him from being fired before 84. But to me, it's obvious when you're watching that team, you've got the right coach. So even if, the team isn't winning, at least you have a foundation that's in place that you can build around. And hopefully this season we can say, all right, Matt Eberflus is so much better than Matt Nagy, and we've got a quarterback. And there you go. We got us a coach. We got us a quarterback. And let's go. Let's build everything else around them now. So even if you don't make the playoffs, you don't win X amount of games, I'm not ready to concede to that point yet. I'm like Al Gore in 2000 here. Fuck no, I'm not conceding. But I will say to you that if that happens, I still think hopefully at the end of the season we can say we have the right coach, the right quarterback, and the sky's the limit.
Yeah. Good points. No Bad agrees with you. He says you guys will be surprised to see what 53 hungry guys can do when they're all together. And Bear Truth,
and all away from Matt Nagy.
Yeah, right. And Bear Truth adds to that, you play fundamental ball, play fast with a solid quarterback and a running game. You have a shot not only on Sunday, but a shot at the playoffs. The thing that concerns me is, football, probably more than any of the other team sports, you really need that cohesion with players, like particularly like at the offensive and defensive line. You got to have good communication with those guys. You want guys who know what to do, when to do it, and so forth. And the Bears are just basically are starting with new guys almost everywhere. And so that makes it harder. Plus, back in Ditka's days, they were still playing an old-fashioned brand of football. It was punch you in the face football. I mean, and nothing exemplified that more than the Bears-Packers games where there was actual punches to people's faces. But in today's NFL, it has changed so dramatically. It's much more ballet than boxing. And, you can't win on just aggression and having a chip on your shoulder. Every head coach is trying to take advantage of the rule changes that allow for easier passing, wide receivers aren't being touched downfield, and so forth. So that's complicated things a little bit. I don't think Mike Ditka could coach in today's NFL with success by threatening players.
Well, I was just using that as a mic. Let me look at another team, a more recent team.
Okay.
Okay, so coming off 2000, the Bears are 5-11. Again, is Duran even going to keep his job? The next season, it's not like that team have been together that much. You have a dynamic young player, a linebacker, Urlacher, and that you could say that's Roquan now, or we'd like to think that that's Roquan. He can do the same things that Urlacher was doing back then. They put some fat guys in front of him, and suddenly the fullback couldn't get to him, and now the defense is playing great. They didn't have they had Jim Miller and Shane Matthews. Now look, Shane won us some big games that year against San Francisco and Cleveland and those comebacks. So I'm not taking anything away from Shane or even Jim Miller, but they're not on paper as good as Fields. And I know Marty Booker had a postseason, or I'm sorry, a Pro Bowl season that year. But coming after 2000, we didn't know who Marty Booker was. I mean, we did. We knew his name, but we didn't know he was going to be a guy that would jump to 1,200 yards receiving or whatever Marty had in 2001. So what I'm saying to you is right now we've got what I think is a better quarterback than that team. We've got what I think is a better running back than that team, and I loved Anthony Thomas. But we didn't think we had any wide receivers then either, and someone emerged. So maybe somebody we have emerges. And then you sign these two guys up front. You got Robert Quinn. You know, you got 99 coming out, maybe getting some sacks for us. You got Roquan as a linebacker. I mean, maybe the team comes together as one of those blue-collar, overachieving kind of teams. Not to say you're necessarily winning Super Bowl 57, but maybe you're not the team that's 3-13. I mean, for the last couple of years, we've been picked to almost finish dead last by everybody. Maybe this is the year where it goes the other way. They say, well, and maybe they're picked last, but maybe they finish second. Maybe they finish first. I mean, it can't be down all the time. It just can't be. And I know Detroit probably says the same thing, and it has been for them. But remember how bad Tampa Bay was for decades. And even Tampa's won 2 Super Bowls now. And remember, they were the laughing stock of the league. Let's not forget that. So the Bears can turn this around. I really believe it. Why not us? You think this coaching staff is entering the game? I get if the GM's thinking, I know we may not win a lot of games this year because my overall my plan, my tactic to use is to blow up this fucking roster. Okay, I get that. But you can't tell me the coaching staff is going into it thinking, oh, we're not going to win. They're going to be like, somehow we're going to manage this shit and we're going to win. You know, I mean, there's no coach in the league that just thinks, oh, we can't win. We're not going to win. You know, right? Isn't that your job to somehow find a way?
Absolutely. No, you're making really, really good points. And a lot of people in the chat room are supporting what you're saying. Bear Truth 9 is saying, yeah, we can do it. So there's a lot of optimism here in the chat room. And I hate to sound like a pessimist. I just have gotten to the point as a Bears fan where I try to every year, you know, I look into it as, yeah, we can go 17-0. Why not? Why
well, I know better
not?
than that.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. But really, I've always looked at it like, why should we attach an L to this game? Why can't we just go out there every game and play like it's the Super Bowl? You can then go 17-0. That's my mentality. That's if I was the coach, I would say that at the beginning of the year and say, okay, we'll never talk about that again because we're going to focus on our first Super Bowl game. That's week 1. And go at it that way. And I believe that can and will eventually happen. Almost happened with the New England Patriots. Thank you, New York Giants. Well,
look at New England. I know that they got Brady out of nowhere, but in 2000, they were 5-11.
Yeah.
The next year, they won the Super Bowl. The 1998 Rams are 4-12 and signed Trent Green in the offseason because Green had put up some stats with Washington. And he got hurt in the preseason, and they had nobody else, so they put in this guy no one's ever heard of named Kurt Warner. And they won the fucking Super Bowl. He was a league MVP, Super Bowl MVP 3 years after stocking groceries. So I know that that's an aberration. That doesn't happen. But what I'm saying is it has happened.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're going to win the Super Bowl, but I'm just saying it doesn't mean that this is a death sentence. We haven't been told that we have testicular cancer here, you know. I think our cancer was benign and we removed it, and that was Matt Nagy.
I love it. I love it.
I honestly think we've got a shot at this thing. But if I had anything to do with it, and I'm just a nobody, I'm a fucking nobody. But if I had one thing that if I could actually say something that a player could hear, and most of the players, as you know, aren't even going to be on the Bears roster from last season or the year before on this particular roster. But I would start out by saying, kind of like Lovey did, dude, this fan base hates the Green Bay Packers. They hate the Packers. They've been rubbing it in these guys' face for 20 years, 30 years now. Mm-hmm. Show them the Aaron Rodgers thing from last season. Mm-hmm. You know, this is what you start with right now. That's our goal. Find a way to beat those fucks. You sweep them, and then suddenly you got people backing you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, that's a small goal. Like Lovey said, we're going to beat Green Bay. Goal 2 is when we win the division. Mm-hmm. You know, goal 3 is we win the NFC Championship. Goal 4 is Super Bowl. I mean, that's something like that, you know. Like, but you start out by beating your fucking that's one thing Mark Trestman said that annoyed me. That every game is its own new game, and none of them have a special importance.
Yeah,
fuck that.
Yeah.
First off, all 6 division games must matter more because they do. Mm-hmm. But you have to instill to these guys what this means to everybody. Mm-hmm. The ownership, the fucking city, the players, everyone that doesn't live in the city they hate this team. Mm-hmm. You want the people showing up and cheering? Well, you beat the team in green and yellow. And it's like Field of Dreams. Remember, they kept saying, if you build it, they'll come. Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. You beat Green Bay, you're going to have a fan base fired up.
Love it. Love it. By the way, Laz says you are not a nobody, Dan McMahon.
Well,
congratulations, Dan McMahon. Woo.
Well, we're all just fans, and I know everyone looks at us as meatheads, is what I'm saying.
No, I know what you're saying. But I think Laz was making reference to the fact that you won, I think now the 5th time in the last 6 years.
Sixth out of 7.
6 out of 7. Look at that.
And that's here in West Virginia alone. I've won in Virginia the last 2 years.
So tell people what you won, because not everybody knows what we're talking about.
All right. The one I'm holding in my hand now says Excellence in Broadcasting from the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, 2022 Best Sportscast Ranked, presented to me. And let me just give context of this, and this is where I will beat my dick if you want me to be happy or arrogant or something. The 1 year that I lost, because I started, the first time I entered was 2016, because it was kind of like, oh, I'll never win. You know what? Why would I? You know, but fuck it. Okay, I'll enter something, and then holy shit, I won. You know, but the 1 year that I lost, I started in 16. I won in 16, 17, 18. 20, 21, and 22. And I lost in 19. The guy I lost to in 2019's name's Kyle Wiggs. He works for the company that broadcasts the West Virginia Mountaineer games. Mm-hmm. So he's got fucking interns. He's got a staff. He's got a professional broadcast. I know that West Virginia isn't, you know, a team that's necessarily going to win the national championship, but they're in the Big 12. So, you know, they have a big broadcast. Mm-hmm. I'm beating the guy with the fucking Big 12. And I'm just a dude from bumfuck nowhere by myself on a microphone. That's it. I mean, I have no staff. I have nobody helping me. I'm doing my own goddamn research and my own stuff and mixing my own shit and submitting it, and I'm beating them.
Outstanding.
So that makes me happy.
Are you turned on right now?
No, but I did get laid numerous times over the weekend.
Okay. Can you share anything with us? Anything at all?
Yeah, I guess I'll tell you. I'll break some news for you. I have breaking news now. I guess you could say I'm in a relationship.
Look at you. Woo-hoo. So how good is she?
So she and I, she stayed, came over Sunday, you know, and she left today, and needless to say, I was active.
Damn. So I can tell when you're getting laid because you don't text me at night.
I did well.
You did well.
I did well.
Good for you, man.
I still got to manage to watch the Lakers show and the Uber one, though.
Yeah, we'll talk about that momentarily, but good for you. And, you know, everybody in the chat room starts to get aroused when you share your stories.
Well, I can't really be more specific on these because she's technically a girlfriend now.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I got to be respectful of her well wishes and her thoughts and those kind of things. And it is kind of nervous, in the sense that, when you come off your marriage and stuff, which is a couple of years ago now, and I've had girlfriends since then, but I don't know. It's just, I avoided any kind of commitment for so long, just because I just didn't feel like it could work with anybody or whatever. So to me, it's a big step.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean I'm getting married or anything crazy, but it's still a big step. And so far, so good.
Well, and you and I have talked personally. I know how important it is for you, to want to share your life, and you're still young enough to have a family. Who knows what'll happen? But the key
she can't have kids anymore. She already had 2 kids. She's in her 40s. She's a little bit older than me.
Okay.
She's born in 79.
Mm-hmm.
But she loves the same kind of music that I do, and loves concerts, and wants to go to all of them, that kind of stuff. So
awesome.
In that regard, it's maybe I kind of thought when the stuff happened with my ex-wife, whether it's the miscarriage and things like that, maybe that was my last opportunity at that. And I've kind of come to grips with that back then, because I kind of felt like the game sort of passed me by. I mean, I know biologically I could produce, kids and stuff, but maybe that game has already left the Bulls are on the road trip now. The circus is in town at the United Center, and they're out west.
That was a weird segue.
Well, they have that trip every November, isn't it? November, when the Bulls have like 6 or 7 road games out out west because of that fucking circus.
Yeah, and the Blackhawks, they play at the same stadium, so they vamoosh for 2 weeks or so.
That's been a while now, right? Doesn't that happen every year?
Yeah, it's happened since the days when they played at the old Chicago Stadium when I was a kid. The owners of the arena always had those dates booked for the circus. Now, does that happen now though? Because isn't the circus out of Barnum and Bailey is defunct now? Fuck it, I don't care. Anyway,
again, my analogy was that I don't think there was any chance for fertilization at this juncture of my life, because I don't relate well to younger women at all. I'm not the kind of guy that can, I can't be Marilyn Manson going after Evan Rachel Wood. That's just not who I am.
Well, there are people in the chat room who are lamenting that you and Brandy are no longer together, but I think you guys.
I saw Brandy on Friday.
Yeah, you sent me a picture. You guys were at the same concert.
Yeah. Brandy was, I was hoping her boyfriend would be there, but so there couldn't be any accusation. Because some guys, I'm not trying to say her guys like this at all, but some guys just get so fucking like pussy or soreness or something over. You can't have any interactions with anyone you've ever had sex with before, which is fucking stupid.
It really is.
Yeah. So, and if this was the flip side, I wouldn't care if the lady I'm dating is in some sort of scenario with an ex-boyfriend or ex-husband or whatever. It doesn't mean that they're fucking now. And if you can't trust them, then why are you with them?
Right. Exactly.
So, but yeah, she was at the show. The guy didn't come. I was hoping he would, but it was cool to see her. And I'd like to think that she's still my friend for sure.
People are asking, or I shouldn't say people, only one person. Nomad says, hey, can we talk some more Bears? And then Don Burr replies, what are you going to talk about, Dakota Dozier? Funny. All right. But there were some more comments in the chat room that I'd like to share.
Sure.
Back when we were talking, when you were talking about the Aaron Rodgers, affair at Soldier Field, Leo said, I wonder if Olin Kreutz would have flipped Rodgers off or punched him. But I saved that because I wonder, do you think there should be somebody in the team who would have gotten up in Aaron Rodgers' face, even at the risk of facing a suspension, and told him, go fuck yourself?
That in theory, that is something you would like. And Olin embodies that thing, that intangible quality that I was saying that Ditka had. Not saying that they had to be assholes and want to start fights because Olin's got that reputation. But you need to have some kind of team leader. And maybe we do have that in Jenkins, because like you saw, he defended Fields real quickly against Minnesota, that has some fire, that says, fuck it, man. Like, I think Kyle Long would have.
Mm-hmm.
And if Kyle were still there and, healthy before his injuries, I think he's the kind of guy that definitely would have taken a bullet for Jay Cutler and maybe told, Rodgers to go fuck himself. So, yeah, I wish that we had somebody on the team right now. And if I asked you to identify somebody as far as we know, who was on the roster at this point, is anyone going to say anything? I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, I can't either. And, you always want your team to maintain their control over the situation, but there are times where you definitely have to push back. And even if it's something that a player is making, gestures to the fans or telling the fans, I own you, I think that's even more of a reason to stand up to somebody like that and to show that person, listen, don't come into my fucking house and do that. Do not do that.
Yeah, Javon Wims had still been on the team if he'd have punched Rodgers instead.
How about that? Well,
or Anthony Miller, if that had been like their first punch was against Rodgers at that moment. I own you. Oh, fuck.
Matthew Fucisi says, nothing wrong with having a couple of enforcers on the team. Totally agree with you, man. You need that. You need the bodyguards, to protect your superstars. And in this case, protect the fans. I mean, I hope that every player that suits up in a Chicago Bears jersey is fully aware of the embarrassment and the torture we have been through the last better part of 15, 20
30
years?
years.
30 years. Oh, jeez.
Favre took over in 1992 when Don Majkowski got hurt. 1992, it's 2022. So we're looking at a 30-year run with the exception of a couple of years with Lovey, 05, 06, 07, and he split in 2010. But just about all those other years, overwhelmingly, we were swept.
Mm-hmm.
04, he won. Yeah, he split as well because he won in Green Bay in week 2. But, yeah, for the most part, though, you're talking about Wani. Wani won in 93 and then was swept in 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. And then Jerron won in 99 but was swept in 2000. And 13-3 in 01, but guess what? Swept by Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Swept in 02. Swept in 03 and losing your first game at the new Soldier Field to Green Bay. And you look at that, all those sweeps, all those times you're losing at home too, because Favre and Rodgers have both owned the Bears at Soldier Field.
Yep.
So you got a generation of Bears fans that have experienced nothing but humiliation to this team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're so arrogant about it. Oh, it's not even a rivalry. Minnesota is our rival now. Well, fuck you, man. Maybe that's true. I don't like to hear it. That's why I say fuck you. Yeah. But hopefully the new Bears can learn, man, that what it means to everybody. The city, the team, like I said, even the owners, man. The McCaskies hate Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like George or even the his mother, but they hate the Packers. And for me, I want to rally around them because I hate them too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's, and what bugs me is that I want to beat teams. I want my team to beat another team when they're at their best. And that just hasn't happened. And so, hey, I'll take it however it comes, but it's going to feel a little less satisfying that we are going to eventually overtake the Green Bay Packers because of Aaron Rodgers' latter part of his career. He's not as effective as before because the Packers have mismanaged their team and have not given them weapons. There's always going to be those excuses. I want, I can't, of course, turn back time, but this season for sure, man, I want at least that home victory against the Green Bay Packers so that we issue them a warning that we're coming. We're coming for the crown, and we're going to take it. And you guys may win the NFC North this year, but in 2023, 2024, 2025, we're going to fucking take it. And I would love it if we could, take it this year. And so you and a lot of other people in the chat room have inspired me to be a little bit more optimistic about what could potentially happen. But I'm not going to bet on it.
And let me add to that. To your optimism, to everything you just said.
Mm-hmm.
One man started both of those games and knows how it feels. Justin Fields played both of the Packer games. So he had his face rubbed in shit too. He knows. He wasn't. Those weren't Andy Dalton games. Those were Fields games. So I mean, so he knows, man. This team, man, they make us look bad all the time. They fuck us up. So he knows what it's like to be swept by them. So maybe that's who instills leadership and conveys that embarrassment to the new Bears.
Mm-hmm.
We've really got to beat this team, man. This is our first goal.
Foster Cover says they should watch the new players. All of the players on the Bears should watch Rodgers. I own you before every game. And I agree with that. One of the things that I think good coaches do is they fire up their teams in different ways. And during film studies, which can get kind of boring, you splice in stuff from movies and TV shows and all sorts of places. That's a clip that you should be showing to your defense, not just before a Bears-Packer game, but throughout the season. Really get them fired up, really get them to understand where this city is, where Bears fandom is, how upset and disappointed that we are, and that we're going to be quick to boo. And if you don't believe that, ask Eddie Jackson sitting there in the back row. He'll tell you that we're quick to boo because we fucking have had it. We demand excellence, and we are due excellence because our support means something. And all of these fucking hats and t-shirts and all this shit that we buy, it means something. Fucking, I don't know anybody in the world that has spent more money on Bears paraphernalia, Bears jerseys and stuff than Dan Aguirre. I mean, it means something to him. And
yeah, it does. But to give a shout out to Phil Toshin, he says he wears Bears gear every day too. So I wanted to give Phil a shout out in that regard. But yeah, I wear Bears stuff just about every day. I mean, there's sometimes I'll slip in a Rock Band shirt or something, but yeah, I've got Bears blankets and Bears socks and Bears fucking shower curtains and everything.
Shower curtains.
I got the Bears logo on my the shower curtain. Yeah, I took a lot of shit from my ex-wife about it too.
I don't blame her.
I mean, come on, man. It's a shower curtain. She said I ruined the theme of the bathroom. I was like, what the fuck was the theme? She's like, you should have asked me before you put this on.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, that reminds me of Phil shared with us on one of the old 100 Proof shows that at his wedding, he had all of the tables were numbered after Bears players. So
that's great.
You'll be sitting at the Dan Hampton table number 99. And I just thought, yeah, that is cool. But I hope his wife was okay with that, because if I were to mention that to my wife, she would say, get the fuck out of here.
I could see that from Mrs. Gandia.
Yeah, she wouldn't stand for that. If you want to wear Bears underwear under your tux, then that's fine, but you're not gonna do that at my wedding.
Right.
Let's see. There were a couple of other comments that I saved and I want to address. I love this from Cliff Victoria. He says, we signed a fullback, and we are gearing up to play power gap offense like the Niners. That's pretty obvious to me, and that makes me feel fucking happy. If we can run the ball for 150 yards every game, win or lose, just they have a commitment to the run, and maybe 150 might be too low because you got to take into account what Justin Fields can do running the ball. But yeah, having this fullback does, and then that safety that we signed, Crookshank, he's a hard hitting guy. So maybe it is a little bit more of we're going to turn the clock back a little bit with our offense.
Yeah, maybe we can be the 1990 Bears.
Yeah.
The latter half of Ditka's run, I mean, it's still one of those big what ifs, but what if Jim Harbaugh would have, played the way he did in Indianapolis here? Maybe he could have if he had more time to develop. But the biggest part, the thing you could take for granted, except for injuries, because Neil Anderson and Brad Muster both had a share of injuries, seemingly every year. But if they were healthy, you knew that Muster and Anderson were going to get 150 to 200 yards rushing combined. They were coming at you. And they were still winning the division for the most part. I mean, they weren't dominant, but they had a fucking running game. And if they'd have stayed healthy, who knows if maybe they could have won a championship with that team.
Right.
So they still had the defense in place for the most part, minus the linebackers, with Wilbur gone and Otis Wilson gone. So maybe that can be our thing. I don't think we're ever going to have a fullback like Muster, who's essentially a halfback playing the position again. But again, maybe David Montgomery and the other back that we signed. What's the kid's name from Tennessee? And our guy from Virginia Tech. A combination of all three. Yeah. Maybe they can rack up, 1,500 yards this season.
Yeah. I'm sorry that I'm forgetting that running back from Tennessee, because I looked at a little bit of tape. That kid's got some skills, man. He's got speed. He could, definitely, if one of the top running backs on the team gets injured, he can definitely go in
and
there.
Don't sleep on Fields.
And don't sleep on Fields. Absolutely. Evans.
He can run the ball. And then I'm sure the new offense will have waggles and rollouts and play action and things to help Fields too, and to disguise the offense, because they're going to be running the ball. So, we thought it was a run, but shit, he's throwing the ball downfield to Mooney. First down.
Yep, exactly.
I think this team's going to be better than last year. At the very least, I'm fairly certain it's going to be more enjoyable for us to watch.
I hope so. I'm not going to say it's so, but yeah. I mean, how can it get any worse, right?
How can it get any? The only thing it could get worse is if Fields would get hurt, and it'd be like the year Rex got hurt and we had Chad Hutchinson and Jonathan Quinn and that shit show, something like that, to where you have like just a horrible injury that I do not want to manifest. But if Fields is healthy, I don't know how it could be. If he's playing, and we got a coaching staff now that gives a fuck, and not to say they don't give a, but a competency, at least I hope. And I think it can't get any worse than last year or the year before, for that matter, or the year before that.
Yeah.
You had all that talent there. And the biggest what if now is what if Vic would have been the coach instead of Nagy? Maybe they do win the Super Bowl.
Jay Sanders says, who the fuck is our number one receiver? Pringle? Jay, I think it could be Darnell Mooney. I really do. It could be that the team doesn't have a number one receiver, that the ball.
What if St. Brown comes out of nowhere? The dude in Green Bay obviously vouched for him.
Exactly. I mean, the
like
guy's
Marty
got talent.
Booker came out of nowhere.
Oh,
I mean, maybe St. Brown shows out. I mean, who knows? I mean, we don't have to know who the number one wide receiver is on April 5th.
Yeah. Well, and again, first of all, the connection that Fields is developing with Mooney immediately says to me that Mooney can catch even 15 to 25 more passes this season, which will get him close to 100.
And maybe we can have him run routes downfield and not just laterally.
Yes.
2 yards out. I mean, they were going to get him killed, that coaching staff.
Yes. And, and then the other point is, who's to say that you really need to have a number one? You could have one A and 1B, because I do believe Pringle is the one bear. Well, I'll put it this way. Pringle right now, as the roster's constructed, he's the one guy I want to see outside of Justin Fields play this season, because I really believe that this guy could be in for a 60 to 80 catch season with multiple touchdowns. Guy's got some talent, super talent, and he was buried with that very talented wide receiver group that Kansas City had. I don't think that they, when Pringle was not re-signed by the Chiefs, they still had Tyreek Hill, and I don't think that they had any intention of trading Tyreek Hill.
I can't believe that trade, all they got back. It's just crazy. What are the Dolphins doing?
The Dolphins?
They've got an awkward left-handed quarterback to throw him the ball, not Patrick Mahomes.
I think that they are trying to give
They gave up way too goddamn much to get him. I mean, Patrick Mahomes made Tyreek Hill. I'm sorry. Dude's a 5th-round pick. I'm glad he got his money, and he was explosive. He's not going to put up those stats in Miami, though.
Mm-hmm.
No way. No way. We're going to look at this in 4 years, and he's going to be on another team.
Well, Cliff Victoria agrees with you. Dolphins are idiots, he writes. I don't know. I think that there are a lot, it's a copycat league. So a league. So not every team, but a lot of teams are trying to recreate what the Rams have recreaed. And
a lot of teams try to do the 46 after the Bears.
That's right.
I mean, so it doesn't work, man.
Yeah. Foster agrees with you. He says, Chiefs burned them. Dan, you are correct. So I think that the passing game, again, it all gets back to protecting this quarterback. You got to focus in on the offensive line. And there have been a lot of comments in the chat room about the Gabriel Talks Football episode today. He reviewed about 15 offensive linemen, Dan, and I would say he had positive remarks about all of them with the exception of maybe 2 or 3. So that means
I know he doesn't like Sam Mustipher.
He doesn't. He thinks it's time for Sam Mustipher to go. Yes,
yes.
But the depth in this offensive line is so incredible that just like the Kansas City Chiefs went through their offensive line transformation after they got embarrassed in the Super Bowl, it could happen with the Chicago Bears by just acquiring some young talent. Now, I don't think that, unfortunately, because we're drafting in the second. 2 picks in the second round and 1 in the third. Those are the big major picks here. I don't think you're going to immediately see great offensive line improvements. But as the season goes on, if there's an offensive line rookie, lineman rookie in that lineup, you're going to see somebody who you're going to say this guy is going to be really good if the Bears don't screw this up. So I'm really hopeful of that.
I liked hearing in the interview, the drop that you played.
Mm-hmm.
That Cole Kmet was working out with them too, because they didn't seem to have any chemistry at all. And as you know, I've been down on Cole, so I would love for Cole to come out and have the kind of year that everyone who's been rejecting my opinion, I want them to prove like, oh man, you were right. I hope that this guy comes. I've been calling him a bust, so I would love for Kmet to suddenly be like. Fields is like safety, like, all right, it's 3rd and 6 and you're not the primary receiver, but fuck, I'll come to you. I know you're going to catch it. I'd love for him to be that guy. So for them working out, that made me happy to hear that, thinking that maybe they can work on their chemistry that way.
Yeah. Kmet's entering his 3rd season with the team. He's only 23 years old. Isn't that amazing? He was targeted twice as much last season as he was the previous season. In his rookie season, he was targeted 44 times. Last season, he was targeted 93 times, caught 60 passes for 612 yards, about an average of a little over 10 yards per reception. He had 0 touchdowns last season, and that's very disappointing. He had 2 in his rookie season, so we've got to unlock that. Plus, the other thing that's important to mention, Jesper Horsted has been signed.
He was re-signed.
That's right. And
that guy, he caught Fields' first touchdown.
Yep. I reached out to him. He was a guest on 100 Proof before. I reached out to him to see if he'd like to come back on. He had no response yet, but I hope to hear from him soon because I'd love to talk to that guy. A wide receiver at Princeton, knew that he probably didn't quite have the speed for a wide receiver in the NFL, so he put some bulk on, played the tight end position, and every time we seen him on the field, all he's doing is big plays. And so what does Matt Nagy do? He doesn't throw him the ball.
Never plays him. Never fucking plays him.
But let's play Graham, the 80.
Yeah, but he didn't play Graham that much either last season.
That's true, despite the money he was making.
Yeah, it's just like, damn, like what? There's no rhyme or reason for anything he ever did.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In my opinion, I'm just so glad he's gone. He's the most frustrating coach I've ever seen for the Bears ever.
Yep. It's a tough pick, man. Let me ask people in the chat. In the chat, who is the most frustrating, to use Dan's exact words, who's the most frustrating head coach you have witnessed in your time as being a fan of Chicago Bears? I go back again to the 1960s, so I've got a lot of coaches to pick from. I saw the name Abe Gribron earlier. It was a part of a joke, so I don't know if that person was, really thought that Abe was a terrible coach. I kind of liked Abe. I loved his gruff attitude. Abe was unfortunately coaching teams that just didn't have talent. The Trestman years, the Fox years, and the Nagy years, I think I have to give those guys a tie for first place, man. Those three. This is why I've learned to be a little bit more pessimistic about the Bears and their potential next season, just because of the bad coaching we've seen over the years. So here are some of the answers coming in. Travis says Nagy was the worst. Jordan says John Fox, I think, beats him though. Jay Sanders, Trestman and Nagy, Kempai, Trestman and Nagy, Foster Covers, who's I think as old as I am, says Abe. Jack was great, but left us. Yeah, Jack Pardee, he was a very, very good coach, but he liked the Washington Redskins more than he did the Chicago Bears. He left after a couple of seasons.
And then went to Houston too.
And went to the Oilers. That's right. Mo Bierman says, how about Neil Armstrong? Neil Armstrong wasn't that terrible. It came from the Vikings, and so he had a defensive mentality. I don't remember his one-loss record, but he wasn't nearly as...
He had one playoff appearance in 79. The most damning thing I heard about Neil was the story that Gary Fensick always shares in 81, which is the year before Ditka, where he said that they were in Detroit, and he never says who the player was. But before the half even started, late in the second half, this guy went to the locker room and made a phone call and was on the phone like when the game was still playing.
What?
Yeah. So it's like he said there was no accountability when he said Neil Armstrong was a nice enough guy, but it felt like they needed the guy that would fucking kick your ass for doing some shit like that, which is sort of like Matt Nagy in that regard. There's no accountability. Anyone can do what they want.
Yeah.
And that same thing with Trestman. Like, we've talked about Lance is like, I'm going to open up a fucking restaurant. And, I'm not going to be there. It's okay. You don't have to be here, Lance. Fuck
yeah. Yeah, that's the toughest thing about being a head coach or a manager, coach NBA, or whatever, is dealing with the personalities. I would imagine, of course, that football is even tougher because there's many more of them, 54 players. And it takes a special kind of human being to show that, discipline, but also, show some heart. It's not an easy thing for a lot of coaches to do. So hopefully Eberflus will have that magic. All right. We got about 20 minutes or so. I want to talk a little bit about some of the pop culture stuff that we watch. I told you that I watched the Grammys this past weekend. I wrote down a couple of notes on things that I thought you might be interesting to talk about, Dan. Sure. Justin Bieber is a very talented kid. I don't want to take anything away from him. Whether you like his music or not, it's undeniable the guy is a artist. But every time I see him perform, I get a little riled up because he looks like that spoiled kid who everything has come easy for him. Doesn't it seem that way to you? It's like,
yes.
And I know that that's kind of a fault on my behalf, that I judge him that way, but he does seem like
do you know the Anne Frank story with him?
Yeah, that's right. Remind people how that was. He tweeted something out after being there.
So he visited, I guess it was the attic that Anne Frank had to stay in during the war.
That's right.
And then signed the guest book and said something like Anne Frank would be a believer.
Jesus, what an idiot.
Jesus fucking Christ, man. He's like, he has no idea about the Holocaust whatsoever, or what this girl went through, or what the race of people went through. It's just unbelievable, the ignorance. But he's a product of his generation where they don't study history. It's like, for so many people born in the 90s, World War II might as well have been a fucking movie that came out a long time ago.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think I went through a period in my life where stuff that happened in the past and history and stuff just didn't seem like reality to me. But as I've gotten older, it's like, holy shit, this stuff really did happen. 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Pearl Harbor really was bombed, and we did have Japanese internment camps and things like that. It's like, holy shit, man, stuff starts to weigh on you. Sometimes, what's the expression? Ignorance is bliss. Maybe I'd be happier if I didn't know.
I don't want to interrupt your Grammy talk, but just as a segue that we'll come back to,
sure.
That's why I like so much about the Laker episode this week.
Yes.
Because I don't even know if that's true, but that was the character arc for Kareem. Everything you were basically just saying.
Absolutely. Just a couple more things on Grammy, and then we'll get to that topic. Carrie Underwood has the nicest legs I've ever seen by a performer, and she must work those legs out, man. She did a performance which was pretty damn good, and I just had to say it because I wrote in my notes, and I'm editing.
That Dua Lipa's got some good legs.
Oh my goodness, there's some beautiful women, and Dua Lipa does too.
Camila Cabello, holy fucking hell! What is she Cuban?
Yes. Yes, her parents are from Cuba, correct.
She is fucking immaculate.
Yes, she is. She's going to be on Saturday Night Live this upcoming weekend, so that's going to be a treat to watch her perform. The other thing I wanted to say about, as I'm watching the country music performers at the Grammys, it seems like of any music genre, baritones like dominate that particular genre of music. I've heard baritones sing R&B music all my life, with the baritone guy with the Temptations and on and on and on. Baritones are out there, but boy, it seems like 5 out of every 10 country songs I hear are sung by a baritone. Why is that? Do you have any idea on that?
I have no appreciation for this genre at all.
Really?
So you're probably asking the wrong person. I hate it. I hate how, like, if we're talking about rock music, just as an example, we can say someone to the extreme of maybe death metal, or maybe someone that wanted to push your buttons like Marilyn Manson in the 1990s, but also someone squeaky clean, like, I don't know, I think somebody that's really not pushing anybody's buttons, like you never really heard Tom Petty starting any shit with anybody, right? Doesn't Tom Petty seem like one of those kind of guys?
Yes.
but my point is, there was individuality.
Yeah.
Different genre within the rock. Then you got someone politically like Bono, but you just have different characters, almost different personalities. Country music, everybody's the same. There's never been like a gothic country singer. Like, they all have to have their fucking costume on, their cowboy hat, their shoes, the buckle. They all look the same, with the exception of the dude from Hootie and the Blowfish. They all look the same. All the lyrics are the same pandering bullshit, like beer never broke my heart. Like, there's never any substance to the lyrics. It's always catering to the God. I sound condescending. I digress. The point is, there's never anything I can relate to lyrically, nor anything about the presentation that I like. I hate that genre. I'm closed-minded.
Hair Bear says, because country music likes big, deep voice country guys with blue jeans and dogs and big trucks, and they have to be gruff. I think that has a lot to do with it, is to perpetuate this myth that they're tough guys, and and they may be singing about a woman that broke their heart, but they're still sound tough, like they can deal with it and stuff. There are a lot of country songs that I like, so I'm surprised that you're saying you just don't. It doesn't appeal to you in any way, huh?
No, unequivocally, no. No. Not any era of country, not any musician that was country, but especially today's country, which is pop Taylor Swift bullshit.
Oh, that's funny.
Like, Keith Urban is from like Australia. I mean, maybe he's the one that doesn't, wear the cowboy hat or whatever, unless I haven't seen him with the hat. Maybe he does wear it, but he certainly doesn't project the image as a tough guy or something. He's like, like, Mike, I'm just fucking Nicole Kidman, like, and he's happy about it. But I'm just saying that the music, it almost is pop. It's very poppy. It's not like, I'm in a country station right now, and if we play something current and then maybe play something from the 90s, it almost sounds like a different station immediately, because country has changed that much. Where you go from like a Morgan Wallen today to, say, a Garth Brooks or a Randy Travis from back in the day, the music is completely different, because now it's like the way Taylor Swift's country music was. It's pop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's dominant in that field now. But so it's especially bad.
Foster Covers says, Dan, watch Toby Keith, the song being As Good As I Once Was. So
I know the song. I don't like it. I don't want to say his opinion isn't valid, because it is. My opinion, it means nothing. It's just one dude's opinion. All these country artists are making a great living. So obviously other people disagree with me, and I'm cool with that. And I admit that I'm closed-minded to it. I just don't like that genre at all.
Hey, more power to you. What about Johnny Cash? Not a fan?
Nope. I actually had a girlfriend in like 08 was trying to tell, or 07, trying to tell me that Johnny Cash wrote Hurt. I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? That's off the 9 Inch Nails album, Downward Spiral. Oh no, that's a Johnny Cash song. I was like, that is a 9 Inch Nails song. And of course he covered 9 Inch Nails, but Lauren didn't believe me.
I didn't know that he covered 9 Inch Nails. I'll have to look for that.
It's true. It's a fact.
All right, let's talk about Winning Time, the Lakers series on Showtime TV. Boy, this episode was fantastic, man. And now the series is like, I liked the very first couple of episodes. I liked them, but now I'm like starting to love this series.
I wish
really
Jeff
good.
Perlman were with us right now, because there's like 3 things I want to know right now. Was Kobe Bryant really at the game as a baby when Kareem hit the hook in Magic's first start or first game ever? Was Kareem really there? Or is that bullshit? Secondly, wow, so Paula Abdul was the first ever Laker girl?
Yes, that's how I remember. I remember her being a Laker girl. Whether she was the first, I don't know for sure. But let me look that thing up with Kobe, because I was wondering the same thing. You know, Kobe Bryant as a child at
the
game.
first Magic's first game. It said he was in the crowd. I mean, how old was Kobe? I mean, obviously he was a baby there, but I was like, was Kobe even alive yet? I guess he was, but
yeah, he was.
The game's in November 79. Was he real at the Forum that night?
Let's see. The LA Times, Jerry Buss's Showtime inspired a young Kobe Bryant. With news that Lakers owner Jerry Buss is ill, this was from 2013. Kobe Bryant said he and the rest of the team are trying to maintain a positive outlook. He had high praise. So that's not related to the show. I'll keep looking for it as we talk. But yeah, I thought that was wild. But the major storyline of
Kareem
was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Could he have made such a transformation after one game, though?
No.
Or was that maybe just because of the show?
The way I remember it is that it took a while, and I hope that the series still shows him battling some of this transformation that he underwent. But I think for that episode, it's actually kind of maybe more emblematic of what happened to Kareem that entire season. And
like just condensing it because it's a show.
Exactly.
I'd love the comment that Magic made to him. Something like, you know, you're walking around angry at the fucking world, you know? And I was like, man, that's so true. Maybe that would be the comment that would inspire someone like Kareem to reevaluate what he's doing. But I just don't know if this is like a caricature of Kareem or if this is really the way it was. But he just looking at the show now, it appears that like he was happy. He already won his championship, and he was contemplating retirement. And he's like the scene with his, I guess she was his wife, and they were talking, and he's like, I got to play one more season, I guess, because we need the money. Or, you know, it's just like he was basically done and worn down from, I guess, losing, and it took a while, but you know, the Showtime and Magic seems to have inspired him, and obviously that's good for Kareem because he played till he's like fucking 43. So
yes, indeed. Yeah, you know, all of the stories that I've read over times about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he was always very difficult to connect with, and I think the series did a nice job of explaining why. You know, he was just upset with what was happening in America towards blacks. He sought out Islam to help him deal with some of those frustrations. He clashed with his father a little bit regarding the change of religion. All that stuff I had read and known about, and he was, you know, he took solace in his jazz music, where he had the biggest jazz record collection of maybe anybody in the world. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of albums. and his house burned down years later, and he lost that entire collection. Can you imagine that, Dan?
Oh man.
Oh, jeez.
This is not the same thing, but when I was a week before I turned 15, and if you can imagine when you're 15, at least for me, I assume you had a way that you made money at that age too. But for me, it was mowing lawns.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a job. You don't work yet, but someone had broken into, we still lived in the trailer then. I didn't live into a house until the next year in 1996. We got our first house.
Mm-hmm.
But in 95, we still lived in a trailer. Someone broke in and stole all of my fucking CDs, like 100 CDs.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're 14 or a week before I turned 15, you can't just go rebuy them. You can't stream because there's no streaming yet.
Right.
You can't even burn them yet. You have to buy the actual CD. You can't even get singles at that point. Like if you're like, I just want the one song, like you have to buy the album.
Yeah.
The whole CD. So I was fucking crestfallen. Thankfully in like 10 days, I had Columbia House ship me like 10 CDs for a penny, and it got me going the right way. But so it's not the same as Kareem losing thousands of records, but considering he could go rebuy them, it's almost the same in some regard.
Yeah, but it's just so difficult. You know, when you got thousands of jazz albums, you got to imagine that there's some one of a kind pressings and things that are just very difficult to find. But he lost, and he lost a lot more than albums. So I remember reading this newspaper story years ago about how devastated that was for him. The guy whose jazz music really meant a lot to him. He's a lot like you, Dan. I get the impression that when I'm feeling blue, I'll put on some music, and in 5 minutes, man, I'm feeling a lot happier. But to you, Dan, I get the impression your love of music is like even deeper than that. Am I right?
Yeah, but some of the music I like is darker and dour sometimes, and I don't even mean by presentation, just by some of the lyrics.
Yeah.
So it can exacerbate sadness if you don't watch it, in some regards. But yeah, even in that instance, sometimes you just need to feel like someone else understands you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so yeah, music means a lot to me. My whole life it's been one of those things. Like I was the kid in school for sure that had a Walkman or a portable CD player, or whatever. I had headphones on every day. So yeah, if you saw me, I had headphones on.
I want to also time quickly running out here. But I want to also address the ending of the episode, which was heartbreaking to see. And I want to, I think I got that particular Jeff Pearlman book. If not, I'm going to get it because I do want to fact check some of this stuff. Here's a guy in this episode, and this might be emblematic of it too. It appears that his coaching style is finally getting through to the entire team, and Jabbar, who was the most recalcitrant, I think is the word, to embrace the fast-paced, move the ball up the court offense. Don't take 24 seconds to put a clock up. Cut that time in half and even more if you can. And Jabbar didn't want to. Jabbar was like, I'm going to set up at the post. You get me the ball.
30 and 10, baby. 30 and 10.
Exactly, 30 and 10. And so, but he finally gets Jabbar and the entire team to buy into it. They're winning. He goes out for a bike ride and he gets fucking run over. And it's like the closing shot is so sad. And he went on to coach after that, but man, it wasn't with the Lakers, and he didn't get a chance to hoist the NBA trophy. That was catastrophic. Knowing what we know now about the rest of his coaching career, that was never quite the same. This guy missed out on an opportunity to be considered one of the all-time greatest coaches.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. I agree with you. And for them to be on a roll, and it's going to be interesting to see how, Paul Westhead, because his character's so meek right now.
Oh my goodness. Played by what's his name?
Jason Segel.
Yeah, he's great in it.
Yeah, and if you saw the end of it where it was giving the preview the next week, I guess he's going to get Riley to be his assistant almost immediately.
Yeah.
And get off of the microphone. So that's going to he's picking his successor, but obviously that ended up being great for the organization for so many years. But I am interested to see how that plays out on the show, his transformation to make the team buy into him. And as we know, as the story's been told, that Magic was kind of the reason Westhead got fired.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of players resented that because, they're like, he parties with Jerry Buss, and, this guy's a kiss ass. And even though he'd already won the championship, even Magic said that until he won again in 82, it was like there were still a lot of detractors of his. So that was the when they got Riley and then they won the title, it was almost like that's when he got, okay, you deserve to be here. You're the leader.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Magic, you sent me something today from Variety.com. Magic Johnson was interviewed.
Oh, God, did you read that?
I read it, and I actually found a little clip of that actual moment.
Ooh, God.
So why don't you do the setup on this, and I'll see if I can cue up the tape.
So you got to remember context is king. I don't know what year this is from, but evidently it's in the early 90s during the period where Magic retired because of his HIV diagnosis, and he was still a young man, relatively speaking. He's like 32 or something. He has a failed comeback a couple years later, has the great All-Star Game appearance, obviously wins a gold medal in 92 with the Dream Team, but he's never the same with the Lakers again. So he's searching for something to do. So they had him do a talk show because Magic's so charismatic and affable. And so he books Howard Stern, who apparently had been criticizing the show, or maybe Magic didn't do it, but the people that run the show did.
Right.
So Magic says, like, man, why do you keep going after me? And Stern starts saying some shit, allegedly, I never saw it, that I guess he wouldn't say now because it's 30 plus years ago or 30 odd years ago. But man, he's like, I grew up in a black neighborhood and you don't sound black at all. I'm blacker than you are. And like, if you'd stop acting white, and like, oh my God, it's like, I don't think Howard would try to say that shit now. And if he did, I'm sure he would get canceled.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. This was Magic Johnson's attempt to be a late night talk show host, and he was awful. He was awful. I remember seeing a dozen or so episodes, and the ratings were poor. And so his producers said, well, let's bring Howard Stern up. That'll clearly raise ratings. And Magic was against it. Didn't want Howard on. Didn't appreciate that type of humor. But he went along with it. And then here's a little bit of a little clip that I found. It's off someone's iPhone, so hopefully the audio comes clear. Well,
these are white chicks, black chicks. What do we got?
So he's talking about all of the. Howard right away takes over the interview. He starts asking Magic questions, and he starts asking him about who he was partying with and how he contacted AIDS.
See, what did you prefer?
It's a party of everybody.
So you would have sex with everybody. At least you had fun getting AIDS. You know what I'm saying? I know guys that go for a blood transfusion.
You are bad.
Yeah,
You
know
are
what I
bad.
mean?
You are
I should
bad.
only have some fun.
Now look.
I love this. Go ahead.
First of all, let's get something straight.
Please do.
HIV.
Go ahead.
And nobody has fun getting HIV.
No. Well, you believe me, brother, you did.
So we gotta keep it kind of cool now.
All right. It sounds like fun to me.
But you know what? Before I answer this question, pennies.
Right. So any girl.
So that was the only clip that I could find. But if you see the video at all, you can see that Magic was not happy with that. I had fun. And in the Variety article, he said that he wanted to punch Howard Stern in the face.
And he deserved it at that moment.
Yes, he did. Howard's humor was always out there. He would say something that people would not say, think in some cases, but not say. And a lot of people probably wouldn't even think of it, which is why he was called the shock jock. But he clearly has to address this because we're now in this stage now where people are drumming up all of this stuff that happened in the past and trying to say, well, this guy said all these racist things in the past, these jokes and so forth. It's a very, very strange time for comedians. Howard Stern, according to Variety, Howard Stern was contacted to see if he would provide a comment, and they did not respond. So maybe on an upcoming show, I know you listen to the show occasionally. If you hear him respond to that, maybe you can grab that clip for us and we can talk about it on next week's show.
Sounds good. I'll see. He takes a lot of days off.
He does.
I guess it's because he doesn't need to work.
Right.
But it seems like he only does like 2 shows a week.
Yeah. I will. I think he's actually going to start doing 1 show a week pretty soon, which is fine. People do weekly podcasts. You and I do weekly podcasts. I mean, he's in his mid 60s now. Let him do whatever he wants. But and his show has changed quite a bit. I know a lot of people are disappointed at the change that the show has taken, but I think he's just matured. The guy goes to therapy three days a week, and I think he's always felt a sense of guilt at how he became famous because of his juvenile humor. But that's a topic for another day. All right, you got to get out of here, brother.
Yeah, but before I go, I made a promise to one of our listeners, but maybe next week we can dive into the Uber show because the finale's next week too.
Oh, good. Okay.
But this week's was pretty good as well.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But I wanted to mention a question I had from on Twitter from Sanjan Jovanovic.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, he was asking what we thought if Mitch had somebody in 2018 ahead of him, whether maybe if Cutler were still there or even Mike Glennon. He wasn't propping up Glennon. He was just using that as an example of somebody that was a veteran. And if they had more time to develop, he was saying if Cutler had still been there, would that have been better for Mitch? I told him I would ask you what you thought about it.
I'm sorry. Rephrase the question again.
Essentially, instead of throwing Mitch as the starter in 2018, would have been better for Mitch's development as a Bear if Cutler was still there, and he could have learned a little bit under Jay and then sort of transitioned the way we wanted Fields to be last year under Dalton. He was saying if there had been a veteran presence, would that have helped Mitch's development or his career as a Bear?
Yeah, well, and you can speak to this because you know about this as much as me, and maybe more. I'm a lot more. This is it would. I think it would have been almost like the McMahon Flutie situation. Jay Cutler would not have wanted Mitchell Trubisky there, and as much effort as Cutler appeared to be making from a maturity level, from a team leader standpoint, and so forth, I don't think he would have liked that whatsoever. Being the first stringer and looking over at the sideline and seeing his heir apparent after his.
But he was friends with Josh McCown, just to be fair.
He was, and one of the reasons why I think is because he respected McCown's knowledge of the game, and McCown, by all accounts, is just such a fabulous locker room leader, but never tried to take over the team. He stepped in gaps of leadership that Cutler just didn't want to be bothered with. And McCown provided that, and Cutler in turn showed appreciation for that. So I don't know. I can't say with any certainty, but Cutler to me would have probably have been the wrong guy, but I probably would have tried it out anyway. Just anything
better than Mike Glennon. Better than Mike Glennon.
Oh my gosh, yes. That was another royal mistake by Ryan Pace. I'm as glad that he's gone as the other idiot, the bald-headed fuck.
Bald fuck Matt Nagy.
People have been using that in the chat room, by the way.
Good. I hope it catches on forever.
That might be a T-shirt. We might have to put that. It's gotta say something else like "good riddance," bald-headed fucker,
and just put a visor on the. You don't even have to use a caricature of Nagy. Just the visor.
That's right.
And sayonara bald fuck or something.
What size are you? Double X? I gotta make
as long as we can get, because I'm 6'5", man, and t-shirts are short now for sure.
Yeah, I know, man. I used to wear XL all the time. Now I'm moving into the double X because you wash a t-shirt now, you can see my belly button after it's come out of the wash, and I put it on. It's like not a good look.
I've told you before, like I can go back and wear like an Anthony Thomas jersey that I bought 20 plus years ago, that might be an extra large and it still fits well.
Yeah.
But if I buy a new one today to Fields, I have to buy a 3X.
Yes, I'm with
but
you,
I
man.
used to be able to wear an extra large and can still wear it.
Do you think that's because of the fabric that they're using now, or they are just kind of mislabeling?
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's kind of like skinny jeans and the jersey's supposed to be tighter.
Yeah. Jesus, I don't know, man. All I know is this: I need to buy clothes, and I'm afraid to do so because I'm getting a little bit bigger. I need to lose weight before I step into a clothing store, because that's always, a hard thing to look in the mirror and see these fucking jeans. You can't get them past your fucking ass. I'm talking about
so
myself.
many people from your generation years later lamented about how bad bell bottoms were.
Yeah.
These skinny jeans are the worst fashion I've ever seen.
Well, the bell bottoms are coming
for
back.
our fucking scrotums too.
Yes, indeed. And the bell bottoms are coming back too. So that was something I saw at the Grammys. Do you still own any bell bottoms?
I never had any of those, but I did have fucking baggy ass jeans from the 90s, and please let them come back. I still wear jeans from like 2000.
Yeah.
Literally, I have a bunch of like Hilfiger or Carl Kanai that I still wear because, like you said, they're wide leg and baggy as shit, and they're fucking comfortable. And I've had them since fucking Clinton was president.
Speaking of that,
because my waist has either been 38 or 40, basically my whole life.
Jeez.
So I'm still, right now, if I buy jeans, like I can still wear 38s or 40s that I bought 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go to buy shit now, I want 42 or maybe even 44 because they're so tight. Just because of style.
And Foster and PJ make good points, is that they make more money off of the XX and XXX sales. Don't you find when you buy these larger sizes that you have to pay a little bit more?
Yeah. In some instances, that is correct.
Yeah.
They jack up just $3 or $4 here or there, but they're making it.
Yeah, they are making it. I do believe that these guys are right. They are, because these fucking companies look for any way to increase profit, even a penny. You sell 1 million jeans and you're selling more for a penny. That adds up to a lot of money. And so I think that they are purposely they have shifted sizes now. So an XL is now a double X is now a triple X. I'm trying to
It
talk
is
myself
very
into
true.
this.
It is very true.
That's right. Or it could be that I'm just getting to be a fat fuck.
Well, with me, it's a combination of all of the above. Unfortunately, I got to go. I'm sorry that we had a shorter show, but maybe next week we can do maybe we can come on 8:30 East next week, and maybe we can do a 3-hour one to
all
make
right.
up.
Let's plan for that. A 3-hour show would be great.
And we'll hopefully have Tooch back and we
McMahon.
can talk about the finale for the Uber show. Will be another episode in the Lakers show.
I'll work on bringing
Jim
Jim McMahon on. If not Jim McMahon, maybe we can find another ex-Bear to come in and talk with us. They are always welcome.
I'd like to get Eric Kramer to come back to share his thoughts on how things went with Fields, because he said he was watching. You're going to be watching from afar.
Yeah, we can reach out to Eric. He's a great guest, man.
Oh yeah, and maybe he could give us an update on what's going on with that horrible lady.
Yes, that is a fascinating story. That's a fucking TV series too. If you want to start pitching ideas for HBO and Showtime and the next series to do, that whole Eric Kramer thing would be a fascinating story. Jeff Pearlman, start working on that.
Yeah, or write the book about it and make someone acknowledge it.
Yep. Jeff Pearlman announced today that he's finishing up his latest book,
Bo Jackson.
on Bo Jackson. So that's one for the shelf too. That's got to be a fascinating story. All right, brother, go out there and save some lives and be careful.
Yeah, I'm at work until 4 p.m. today, so I appreciate the show. It'll help get me through the next 16 hours.
All right, man. Hang in there.
All right, you all be well. Thanks,
right.
everybody, to listen.
All right, that is our man, Danica Wire. There he goes out onto the road to get over to his 911 job. I want to, what do I want to do here? First, get rid of this. There, get rid of that. PJ says he wants to see me in bell bottoms. PJ, I go back to the days of elephant bell bottoms and platform shoes. So I've got pictures somewhere. So I'm not going to share those with anybody because I'm already ridiculed enough in my life. So I just wanted to stick around another minute or so and let you know what is going on here at the Barroom. Guys, on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, we've got a show on, it's the debut of the video version of the Mac and Reed Show. This is a show that I'm really, really excited about. The Mac, yeah, and the Bee Gees, right? The Mac and Reed Show, I was a guest on their show probably around 6 years ago. They had a podcast covering Chicago sports, and then they brought me back another time or two, and I thought these guys were really, really good, and that these guys were building something that could potentially be seen or listened to on Chicago radio. And then they took the year off because of the pandemic, and I reached out to them and said, hey, are you guys thinking about coming back? If so, would you like to come to the Barroom Network? We quickly talked it over and agreed on things. They are doing 2 weekly shows now, one audio only, and the other one, they want to do it on StreamYard here on our YouTube channel to have some interaction with you, Bears fans, sports fans, and talk about a lot of the same things that Dan and I talk about it, but a lot cleaner. Those guys are all both young fathers. But they're very, very talented. So I'm asking you to give that show a chance. It's called the Mac and Reed Show. It will be live here 7 p.m. So give it a listen. And if you can't catch it live, then give it a try on demand when you can. That is tomorrow at 7. At 2 p.m., it'll be Bar Down Hockey Talk. Vinny Parisi, Joey Parisi, and Eddie Mueller will talk about all the latest NHL news, and they also talk a lot of pop culture stuff. I mean, they've had conversations on their favorite tacos, on their favorite desserts, on all sorts of things. It's a blast. Have a lot of fun listening to those guys. I direct that show, and so I can, if you tune in, I'll be happy to exchange thoughts with you in the chat room under the Barroom Network banner. And then tomorrow night at 9 p.m. it's Science Fiction. So I know Cliff Victoria has been listening to that show or coming on and interacting with the Science Fiction guys, and he's really high on the show and has done a nice job of letting other people know about Science Fiction. So that's tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So join Cliff and myself and interact with us in the chat while the guys talk about the latest in the Marvel, DC, science fiction world. And then I also want to plug 2 more shows on Thursday. It's Crosstown Crosstalk. Vinny has a really cool guest on. Oh, it's White Sox Dave. I got to ask you guys something. Those of you who are still here. White Sox Dave, he works over at Barstool Sports. He's got a tremendous following and so forth. And he posted a video last year when the White Sox were in the playoffs where he approached John Cusack, who was about to enter the stadium for the game. And he questioned whether John Cusack should even be there because, as most Chicago sports fans know, Cusack is a huge Cubs fan. And he took him to task saying, why are you here? Well, you shouldn't be here. This is our playoff game and so forth. And I thought it was rude and I thought it was wrong. First of all, John Cusack played Shoeless Joe Jackson in the 8 Man Out movie, an outstanding baseball movie about the 1919 Black Sox scandal. And so just for that alone, he deserves a free ticket because he played Shoeless Joe Jackson in a fabulous way. It made you feel sorry for him. If the Hall of Fame ever considers putting Shoeless Joe in the Hall of Fame, which they should watch that movie just alone, because as I understand it, it's factually on target. So he's going to be Vinny's guest Thursday on Crosstown Crosstalk, and I feel like I should interrupt the show and tell White Sox Dave, I think you were full of shit when you did that. So I'd like to get your opinion. Should I do that or just stay cool, stay out of it, and let Vinny do his thing? So that's something that's happening on Thursday at 2 p.m. Central. And then at 8 p.m., Danny Shimon and Neil Stopchinski are going to evaluate another dozen or so players that they think could fit the Chicago Bears for the 2022 season. So that is going to be very, very cool. I know the guys do a lot of work in preparation for that show. So hopefully you can join us live. If not, catch all of these shows on demand. Audio versions, all you got to do is go to wherever you get your podcasts and hit Barroom Network, and our feed of shows will pop up, all of it totally free. And then, of course, all of our webcasts are stored on our YouTube channel here at the Barroom Network YouTube channel. Jordan says, always appreciate it, Aldo. Hey, Jordan, I'd love to have you on in a future show to talk football, whether it's with Greg or maybe some of the other guys. So hit me up on DM. And that's another thing that I want to do. And I want to do this right after the draft. This show and a couple of other shows, I'd love to have some of you barflies on just to, get to see you face to face. We'll talk sports and maybe have 5 or 6 people on at the same time, and I'll play the referee and have a good conversation. So hit me up if you have any interest on that. I know I've already 2 or 3 people have reached out to me, but if you have any interest on that, reach out to me. My email is aldo@bearsbarroom.com. Art by Nike says he's down already. Awesome. So again, it's aldo@bearsbarroom.com, or just DM me on any of my Twitter accounts, Aldo Barkeeper or the Barroom Network DM. So Stephen Nagishi wants to be a part of it, and I'd love to have you on, Stephen. Stephen's got such great insight into sports, and he's a fellow Nagy hater. So just for that reason alone, I love him. And if you did not check out Stephen and Ken Fang's show on Monday, the Double A Team, that's available on demand as well. They had on 2 great guests, and they talked a lot of Chicago Bears football, and they talked about some of the hot topics going on in sports. So that's an excellent show. It appears live every other Monday here on the Barroom Network, and of course the season 2 of South Burb's Hitman. If you're a White Sox fan, that's every Monday night at 8 p.m. They had Alyssa Bergerimi on. She is the host at White Sox games, and just a delightful interview, and so that was fun. So we got all sorts of good stuff here at the Barroom Network. We know that there's a lot of options for you to listen to watch, and the fact that you choose us, even if it's every once in a while, we're really, really grateful for that. So with that, Aldo, what was that email again? I can do it. Okay, let me put it up on the screen. Aldo@bearsbarroom.com. There it is. Aldo@bearsbarroom.com. That is the email. Send it to me, and we'll work out dates and all the particulars involved with that. Really, really looking forward to that. I've been wanting to do it for some time, and I think a couple of weeks after the draft and so forth will be a fun time because we'll have lots to talk about. All right, that's this episode of Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. I hope Johnny Santucci is having a fabulous time with his family on vacation near the Siesta Key area. I hope Dan Aguirre has a nice slow night and doesn't have any emergencies, and he can watch some of his favorite programs in between calls. And I hope that I have a better day tomorrow than I did today when everything went wrong in the morning. But this has been the highlight of my day doing this show with Dan. All right, everybody. Talk to you later. That's it for Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. And I'm just killing time here as I try to find the closing video.